now that we got all the, you know, now that we've shared all the goofy things going on in our lives, we can be appropriate now-ish. I always start it, and then something always happens. Like, great. But that's okay. Oh shoot, I'm gonna make sure I don't have Susie's. Susie sent me the most hilarious email about the tomato. So I'm still laughing about that. I'll be curious to know what Sharon, how that went for you. So let me get down to the right layer here. This is Susie's thing, and I'm gonna hide the other layers so that nobody can see it just yet. Oh my God, the birthday girl. Okay, there we are. All right, so this is Sharon's. Sharon, what do you want to talk about it, or say anything, or this one, how this went?
Sure. Well, you know, I discovered while I was doing this that there's a real difference in paper quality of watercolor paper. And this is one you see on the screen is watercolor paper that I've had, I don't know, for 20 years. And it's the Cotman, I think is what it's called. Cotman watercolor paper.
Oh yeah.
And I will finish this pad, but I will never buy this again. I find it's lit. If you look at the left-hand side, it lifts, and it's just, I just wasn't happy with how it worked out. And I did 2 of them to see if I could do it better the second time. And the second one you see is the second one. So, you know, I don't really have any comments except that because of the quality of the watercolor paper, I'm unhappy with the gradient on the green, for example, from right to left. It was really hard to do it. And actually now when I look at the photograph, the orange at the top also is not great. But anyway, it was a good exercise to learn how to do gradients with watercolor, and also to view what you said in the video about a solid gradient or consistent gradient, I guess, versus like or consistent color versus a gradient. And when you put them side by side, there is an observational difference in that consistent color. So I thought that was really interesting to, observe firsthand when I did the exercise.
Yeah, cool. And you know what? I totally agree with your choice. Like when I went to do mine, I chose the cheapest paper. Like somebody had given me this stuff and they had kind of like cut some corners. Actually, it was left over from a class that I taught, and the program said I could have it. And I'm like, I thought at the time, I was like, because I had, anyway, it was a lesser quality paper than what I'd ordered. And I think they were just trying to save money. And so for these exercises, yeah, it's kind of frustrating to, like, on the one hand, you don't want to use your nicest paper. I wouldn't, but on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but I probably would have chosen the same. I know that I've messed with Cotman, but I can't remember one way or the other how it was for me. So that's good to know for everybody. Yeah. Did you see that there was so you saw that there was a shift, and the one on the bottom, actually, I can see it really looks, in fact, let's just do a little color thing. But when I did mine, I was really hoping for a bigger shift than what I got. And I have a lot of theories about it. I always do. Like, one of my theories is maybe if the stripe was thinner, then you would see, because the background right now, and this is a problem with mine as well, like the stripes are all are somewhat equivalent, and I think if the background is more, if there's more just acreage on the background, then you're going to see more shift. But yeah, I mean, And it also, for what it's worth too, like the other thing that the doing the gradient, I thought, I tend to think of myself as being really good at gradients. But when I did it, I was surprised at how hard it was to control that. It was like, shit, some colors are easier to get a gradient out of than others. And I think it's just the nature of the pigment and how they.
Melissa.
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah.
I also chose green and had a terrible time with green, and wonder if that's one of those colors that is just really a toughie to work with, because yellow was a snap, green was hard.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, it depends I guess the other thing too is it depends on like the brand and the particular type of green. Like the watercolor set that I've been using has like, I think 3 or 4 different greens, and one I know is kind of smeary and the others work great. So yeah, like, well, and green to me is a really tricky color because I don't know why. Like it's in nature, of all the colors. In fact, our eyes have more cone receptors to see green than any other color, right? And yet, when it comes to painting with green, it's like weird and hard. I don't know how to say it. But I want to see like, in terms of what the camera does. So if we got this as a little swatch, and I'll just kind of paint it on, make sure I'm on the right layer on, all right, there it is. Okay. So this is from the far right. And then let's see if we pick up another, oops, I'm in the wrong spot. There we go. See. Interesting. You guys see that? So
Yeah.
So the one is, I'm laughing too because I can see it's like, this is the watercolor brush and it actually does a really good job of imitating how watercolor behaves. But yeah, so that really pushed it. So what you have is, I want to say, Sharon, you have kind of, it's definitely a value shift, obviously, but it's also a color shift slightly. You're going from like a blue red to an orange red, which is cool. Now the one at the top, it doesn't seem like it does it quite as much. Let's see if that, see what that does. And this is not a good or bad, Sharon. This is like just a neutral, like, let's see what it does kind of thing.
Oh, fine. Sure.
It's not like the dust test, or I always think about like, if somebody goes around and tests to see if their maid is doing their job by like testing the dust, Slight, very slight. The other thing is some colors change more than others. So that, I think maybe the red might be one of those less likely to change. This would be cool if you felt like doing it, to do it in reverse, because I'll bet you that this ochre color, and I've seen you use this before and I really love it. It seems like my pencil's not talking to my iPad all of a sudden. I don't know about you guys, but like I've been running into like everything feels like a little glitchy these days, like I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Karen can. Yeah, but like I'm
going in on my iPhone.
Okay. But I'm glad
you're coming in on my iPhone, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
Because I can't see on that.
Yeah, and I'll go off the share screen and we'll let you in. But Yeah, so, but yeah, this color up top, Sharon, I mean, this would be so cool to see. And you use this color a fair amount. And I don't blame you. What is that color anyway?
Don't worry about it. I think is a burnt sienna.
Okay, if it's not easy, don't worry, like, but there's something about that one that's just really like a nice, I don't know, it makes me think of Italy or something. Of course, I think of Italy with you anyway, so.
Yeah, it's the burnt sienna.
Oh, okay. What brand?
Sure. Cotman.
Cotman.
The same brand as the paper.
So good paints, but not great paper. Huh? So,
right.
All right. So I think we'll just kind of move along there, but nice job. Frankly, Sharon, I think you showed some pretty good control of your gradient and your flat color. So don't worry about it. I think it's just something that comes with practice again and again. Yeah. And so nice job on that one. It was really cool that this one on the bottom, you could really see the color shift and the value, the shift of it, like so much that the camera picked it up. One last note too is when I did mine, I did it under artificial light and I was really disappointed. But then the next day I looked at it under natural light and I saw that actually I'd gotten a lot more shifts than I thought I had. So that's always an interesting thing, like how things go. But yeah, kudos. I'm glad you got some use out of it too. Whoa, look at that tomato. And so that's photograph, obviously. And then another photograph. And aha! So, oops. Let yeah. Beauty. Hang on, I hate to stop, but let me let Karen back in. She's trying to get back in on her phone.
That's nice.
So, so we'll go from there. Yeah, now Susie's not.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
About when you're dealing with still life, like we're doing with the tomato, must we use the shadows?
Must you what?
Do we ever do still life without shadows?
Karen's got to turn one of those off.
Yeah.
I know.
I think I just muted her. Okay, good. I think I muted her. I muted her iPad. Are you there, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So
I'm sorry, everyone.
no worries. We've all been there. Technical difficulties. So Diane, you were asking a question about still lifes.
Yeah, still life and shadow.
Okay.
In fact, the reason I ask it is that I did 3 different tomatoes and I put the shadows in just as I was seeing them. And a couple of them are okay, but one is just awful. And the tomato itself I thought was beautiful. And I would be tempted just to take the shadow out and say, here's my tomato. So what happens? Is that an art no-no?
No, I would say do it.
Yeah. Okay.
We were looking at botanical illustrations at one point. I'm not sure. I'm like having a moment of like who was there and who wasn't. And let's see. So Karen, you're still there, right? Huh.
Yeah, I'd have to do something with the camera on my iPhone. If this is a mess, I just don't want to interrupt. I'm just doing stuff as I can, and I'll get in eventually.
Okay.
I could see you guys, but you can't see me.
Oh, sneaky.
Sorry.
But I got, sometimes my phone sends me 2 texts instead of 1. And yeah, and I've also been having like with not just, I've also been having like sometimes people text me and it goes somewhere like to my iPad and I don't see it. So just double checking. Okay. So to get back to that, who saw the thing about botanical illustration last week or last time we met? I know Sharon didn't. So I don't think most of you. All right, fine. Let's.
Botanical?
What? Yeah. Let me just do a quick share screen so that on botanical illustration. And to answer your question, Diane, no, there's no rules about it. I mean, I guess I'm putting the shadows in because, you know, the nice thing about the shadows is they create some depth and, you know, kind of put it in space. But if you don't want to do it, and if you feel like it's not going to improve your painting, then don't, you know. I mean, there's other things that you can do with, I mean, it's kind of like me trying to escape math. Like, I've spent a good deal of my life trying to escape math, but like I always wind up having to do math in some form or other, you know, and ironically, a lot of times through art, I'm doing proportions and measuring and making all, you know, doing all this kind of stuff. And so I'm kind of getting fooled into doing math. And it's like that with shadows. Like, you can let go of doing it to make your piece a little bit better or to improve what you feel works better for your piece. And I totally endorse that. But sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with the shadows. So I'm not too worried about it. It's like some evil phantom that will get you somehow sooner or later. And let me show you guys these beautiful botanical.
The art police.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. And I'm never sure like who comes up with these rules around art. Like, it just drives me bonkers because I've yet to know, like, you know, why that is. But traditionally, botanical illustration doesn't have really any shadows. Most of it is just floating in space. I want to see if I can pull up a bigger one. Yeah. But if you just look at all of these, they're, you know, they just float in space and they're quite lovely. Yeah, in fact, my mom used to do a lot of botanical illustration, and she taught me how. And
Yeah, wow.
yeah, and it's quite wonderful, really. I mean, she and I were talking the other day, and she was sharing, like, because she also taught at Moore College of Art in Philadelphia, and then this one girl raises her hand. She had like all these girls with, like, it was a girls' school at the time. She had all these girls like with like piercings and nose rings and, like, you know, lots of strong lesbian contingent, you know, all this kind of stuff. And this one girl was like, can you get a job doing this? And my mom was like, no, I don't know anybody who does a job. Because the classic, and what's funny is my mom had commissions sort of through my dad's connections, you know, and she did wonderful stuff. But anyway, what this shows you is sort of the classical botanical illustration shows you like the lifespan of a plant, and it's really about making, you know, how do I say this? You're showing, it's really a composite image of all the, you know, fruiting, flowering, probably all of my guess, just from having seen how my mom worked, like these, depending on the age, like they're kind of composite. Like they might have taken the fruit from one plant. They might have used a herbarium specimen, which is, you know, just like a pressed flat thing. They might have, if they had access to photographs, they might have used that. I mean, any of these things, and some of them go back, you know, way into the, you know, 1600s. I'm not sure how old the oldest ones are, but
Oh, wow.
they're actually they're actually kind of important documents. The other thing too is like, even now with photography, like my dad would take photographs of the work, but my mom would interpret it into different ways. And the photographs couldn't show the things that the botanical illustrations could, just in terms of how the leaves, like this is a good example, like imagine a photograph of this and how I'm going to see if I can zoom in on it, but like how the leaves join, or we saw this kind of with the cherry, you know, like how the stems come out into the fruit. All right, so wow, looks like there's a lot of you know, this looks like a really serious article: botanical illustration, sustainability, and cultural diplomacy. And of course, wow, really dry and academic. And meanwhile, we're doing like, you know, obscene tomatoes. But I mean, that is an absolutely stunning. It's just like, wow. But how they're able, let me see if I can zoom in on it. And then I really, really, really want to get back into the Sharon's piece that we just had like this little teaser for. But at any rate, there we go.
Well, I'm thoroughly fascinated
Yeah.
by all of it.
Yeah. I mean, so this is basically, and this is a good example too. Like, you wouldn't normally see, you know, the one on the far right is I believe I'm not sure if that's getting ready to bud or if that's what happens after it's flowered. But, you know, you've got your flower, your seed, and I'm guessing either before or after that. And that's not something you would normally see happening on a plant, or very rarely. Most plants don't do all three of those things at the same time. So, yeah. And again, look at that, Diane. No shadows. No shadows whatsoever.
No shadows. Okay.
Floating.
All right. The art police won't come after me.
At least not the botanicals.
Oh.
At least not the botanical illustrators. Now the Fruit Still Life Painter Society you might get a hate mail from them or something, but you know, whatever. What are they gonna do? They gotta have social distance. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a certain amount of like, yeah, what is anybody gonna do to me? You gotta stay 6 feet away, you know. Oddly freeing. Yeah, I'm like, so, ooh, Sharon, wow. All right. So talk about it. Tell us all about your tomato.
Okay, so I took a whole bunch of photos of this tomato, which I got late last night at a friend's house, in real outdoor light and artificial light, and I preferred the shadows in artificial light. Mm-hmm. And you know how you say the more you look at something, the more you see? Mm-hmm. So at first I saw a tomato with 2 bulbs, right? Mm-hmm. And then I saw the first shadow, and then I saw the second shadow. That's what I saw. And then I looked deeper and went, oh wait, no, there's overlapping shadows. And then there's more shadows out to the side. And oh my God, look, there's even a yellow shadow on the left-hand side, which I didn't see the first time I looked. Mm-hmm. And so I mapped it out this morning and started painting. And I realized, and I'm going to try and do it again, but I realized after painting it that I made an error in using pencil to outline the shadows, because it gives them a very defined edge. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the photograph, you'll see that the edge, although it's defined, it's not as defined like with the pencil outline. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of fun using different colors to try and get the effect of the highlights and the rounded nature of the tomatoes themselves, and then the concave nature of that sort of blemishy stem thing in the center.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely beautiful job. I mean, you've got the volume of it, which is wonderful. It's very bodacious as well. You know, it's, yeah, and there's something I find about like the little bit of scarring that you know, I mentioned on my video, like something kind of poignant about that. Like, you know, that here you have something so voluptuous, but also has some scars on it. And that's just the nature of producing fruit, you know. You could even make a metaphor around childbirth or things like that. So totally agree with you on the pencil thing, on the pencil lines. I know it's hard because on the one hand, you want to have a little something to help you with it. And I like, yeah. But just, and it's, the good news is because your watercolor is pretty washy on that, you can, I think you should be able to go over that and erase it, and that would be totally fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. If it's too thick on there, it won't erase, but if it's just a thin wash, you can sometimes get away with it. And I want to look at the photo.
Look at that. I can.
Woohoo! Yeah, so like I'm not gonna, I mean, I could do it digitally, and I guess that would be actually kind of interesting to compare. Oh shoot, I keep forgetting to do this because I'd also had offered to you guys like if you wanted to give me feedback on one of my pieces and then go back into it. I think it was the cherry one. And then comparing the digital edits to the actual real life, or we can keep moving forward. Let's see how time goes and go from there. So this is the artificial light, correct?
No, that's natural light.
Oh, wow.
From the window.
Okay. What time was it like dark or?
Well, it is on the west facing side of the house. So it's not as bright as if it was on the east side, but yeah, the artificial lights in the house provided the shadows that you see in my painting.
Okay. So that's natural. And then let me get, and then this is the artificial light. Yeah, I agree with you. The artificial light is way cooler for the shadows. And look at all those shapes in there, you know. They look like buns. It's like triple buns, you know, or quadruple buns, depending on how you count it. Yeah. One thing I like so many things about this. So I like how you did this shadow, like really that kind of dark underneath the, let me get another layer up so I can kind of show you guys what I'm talking about again. You're like, what are you talking about again? Like, I don't know. Come on. All right. There we go. Okay. So I like how you did that. That's like that really kind of pops the tomato forward over the shadow. Even though it's very dark, you've got a good sense of that going on. One wish that I have, and I can show you that, and I feel like it's really picky, because the other thing I really like that you did is, if you guys notice like how she put in the yellows into her tomato, like, like that really gave it a nice liveliness to it. And it looks like it's slightly exaggerated, but that's okay. Like, again, like you can be dramatic with with it. This is also like, that's well observed, those kind of things. And I think the yellow makes it look more translucent, which is super cool. My one wish for this, when I saw this, was this red here is really accurate, feels really, really, really good. And when I look at the rest of the tomato, I can see that there's more of that dark red in there. And so it almost looks like it's like more ripe in one spot, when overall it's a really like lovely ripe tomato.
Yeah.
So and this color feels really good. I mean, this would be like such an easy, like, you could just, you know, find this, and I'm using the watercolor brush because I think that'll work better, and just do like a wash over it. Let's see what it looks like, but not too much. Like, that's part of the cool thing of what's, so I'm kind of doing it on the right side.
Melissa, what red are you using?
In my,
red are you using?
what I did was I just pulled from
Yeah.
but on my watercolor set, I've got a blue red and a orange red, and I used both to do my tomato. So like, in general, on the, ooh, that's bad. In general, I did the blue red more in the shadows, and the orange red more where the light was. Does that answer the question, or is that?
I was kind of wondering what you were using to highlight Sharon's red tomato spot that you like that color. I tried to get that color and could not. And I love that. I just love it. I just don't know what to use.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. All right. So I'm just going to put a little swatch over here, and I pulled this off of, and I've actually have it as a low. I'll do it as a little bit more opaque, and make it a little bit bigger. And of course, you know, blah, 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 going from different digital to different blah, blah, blah. Okay. So when you look at that color, like if I was to go make this color, I would definitely, when I look at it, I kind of ask myself, what is the color within the color, right? You know, and sometimes you get lucky and you have it out of the tube or a convenience color, but often you don't. So when I look at this one, I feel like I see a lot of blue in this red. So I would definitely be using like an ultramarine blue in there. I also feel like it's not really a transparent red. It's more of what I would call an earth tone red. So I'm thinking of like some of like I think it's a burnt sienna would be another thing that I would be looking at. And then I would also be looking at putting in like, let's say, an alizarin crimson, which is a blue red. So that's kind of how I would be doing. I would be kind of going more for the earth tones to get that red, but not entirely. Does that?
Okay.
So blue,
Gotcha.
Blue and earth red.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know how that goes though. It's a great question. And especially like a lot of times I'll spend a lot of, you know, not so much now, it's something that's developed over time, but I can't tell you how many times I would look at a color and I'd be like, what the fuck color is that? What is that color? You know, and you just have to kind of go into like, what color do I see in the color?
Yeah.
Yeah. And pulling it out of context can help a lot too. Because, you know, we know from how different it looks. And the interesting thing too is like what Sharon's done is, you know, in some ways I feel like this is a little too earthy what I have. Like, I feel like whatever Sharon was doing was working beautifully. So don't go too earthy on this one. I'm going to shift it a little more red, I think, just to see what we get. Okay, so you kind of see, and when I do that, you see it really goes from a purpley red almost to more of a brick red. Let's see what that. And a lot of times too, people will put little, I don't often do it, but they, you know, like my mom would do little swatches of, to the side of whatever color she was using for reference. See, now that looks a little too red to me, you know? Sharon's like, no! I hate to, like, this is such a gorgeous painting, Sharon. I feel like I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm afraid to mess it up. Honestly.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's just like, just a little bit more tomatoey. Does anybody else have the thing where they're like tasting you can taste it as you're painting or drawing it? You know, or okay, so I'm not the only.
Not mine. No.
No.
I was poisoned.
It's like the Wicked Witch of the.
Yeah.
It's like the poison apple or something. The poison tomato. Susie did not like her tomato painting at all. It's not fair because it's her birthday today too. You know. I don't know, I'm gonna hide this and see what we get. I think I went a little too far. Because the thing I like about yours is that, let me take that.
I love hers.
Yeah. Like, I feel like what I did just makes it a little, it takes away some of the contrast. Okay, when I take down the opacity, it looks a little bit better, like 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer is very light wash to get a little bit more. What do you, so, but you know, in some ways too, like what you did just looks like a slightly less ripe tomato, and there's nothing wrong with that. It at one point was slightly less, you know. What do you think?
Well, one of the things that I'm finding, Melissa,
Yeah.
one of the things that I find is that, you know, what you see in front of you probably has, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 washes on it. I'm trying to build up the color, keeping in mind that, you know, that sort of center portion on the left lobe is that more blue red, and then other areas are more orange red, and then there's some sort of yellowy orange highlights. And so, you know, it's constantly layering, try to bring more color. And I find it difficult to get that intensity of color.
Mm-hmm. Huh. I mean, well, I guess what I ran into, or what I kind of surprised me was, especially when I was doing the cherries, was like I could layer things a lot more than I normally did. Like I was surprised at how much I could layer it, and it didn't get muddy. That's the other thing, like, because a lot of times people will say like, oh, watercolors always get muddy really fast. And I'm like, I don't know. Like those cherries I did, it had like maybe 10 layers on them by the time. So the other thing I found was as the paint dried, things will shift, of course. So like a lot of times it would look really good wet, and then it would dry, and I'd be like, oh shit, I gotta add another layer. It's like, you know, right. Yeah, and you don't want to, and I get it too, because you don't want to lose, you know, this these wonderful yellows, which are also accurate to the tomato. So yeah, and it's just, so it's really just a question of, do you want, oh, that's not the right one. There. But to make it look a little, to just even it out a little bit with that, it would take a very light touch, you know.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, but again, gorgeous job. I feel like I'm being friggin' nitpicky, you know, with it, because it really has so much going for it, you know. Yeah, and I want to see it too without the pencil lines, now that that's erased, because I have a feeling that your shadows are going to look a lot better, you know, without that. One other note is just a suggestion to this line over here. I'll just do it in here. I think you'll see it if you know it. Just kind of define that a little bit more. I feel lucky that you're in Wisconsin, because otherwise Susie would be beating you up for having such a beautiful tomato. She'd be like, you know. So, you know, you're safe over there. But yeah, just making that edge a little bit more defined.
I'd be at her.
Sure.
I'd be at her house begging for information.
That's probably that's a more enlightened thing. Now that, yeah, that's you'll get better results with that. Yeah. And you could also do this with the shadow, with the shadow too here a little bit. So yeah, just make it so it's not rough, a little bit more smooth. I think you'd be good. Yeah, I mean, just, oh my God, celebrate that though. Huge celebration. Last week we celebrated Diane's cherries. This week we're celebrating Sharon's tomatoes. So it's all celebrations and it's all good. So yeah. So
I have a question.
yeah.
I when you did that last little bit, it ends up on our screen anyway, looking like there's a bit of white under it, which is what you tell us we should do, that the reflected light should be there. Is that what you did to that, or was it just because you're doing it electronically and it didn't spread all the way?
Good question. So like this is so originally this was just like a white, or it just looked like she didn't quite go to the edge with the tomato versus the shadow, which isn't a bad, when you're just starting a painting, it's not a bad idea, because like you don't want to get too painted, you know that phrase, paint yourself in a corner, you know, so leave a little bit loose, but then as you develop it, it's a good thing to just sharpen it up a little bit. So what I did was, let me hide this. So I just added a little bit of red around the tomato, which is that kind of more, I did that. And then I put a little bit more of the shadow color there. Yeah, there often is like a white around, especially if it's sitting on a white surface. Did that answer the question, or did I not get it?
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of no. Okay. So what you're asking is like, should you have the white, should you have the white tomato or white under the shadow, right?
Yeah, the reflected light that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there, that looks like it on the left-hand side where it's actually kind of pink, but it still works.
Yeah. So when you say left hand side, like I'm looking at this area, are we talking about the same area? Or you said left hand side?
No, I was looking at the other side.
Okay, so you're looking over
Yeah.
here. Okay.
So at the very bottom where it's touching the surface, just a little more to your right.
Whoops. That's as zoomed in as I can get. So you're thinking this guy or this guy?
No, right up against the tomato. Right, the rim of the tomato, the outline of the tomato.
Oh, okay.
At the very bottom where it's touching the table.
Right there?
So is that a reflected light?
Yes. Yes, it definitely is.
Okay, that you answered my question.
Finally. Sometimes it takes a little bit, you know.
And kudos to Sharon for picking it out.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing to do that, because that will help the tomato sort of the form kind of pop forward more, because it's so I almost think of it as like blooming out, you know, all these curves and things like that. So yeah, and also good observation about the kind of pinkish tone on that one. Yeah, so just lovely. So yeah. Anybody else want to add something before we go and torture Susie with her tomato from hell painting? Oh, there, Susie, we all got it. But yeah, just beautiful job, Sharon. So yeah.
Now, wait,
Yeah.
before,
Very beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Love it.
Before we get into this, Melissa, I emailed you a little while, a weird correction I did on the painting
Oh,
to try and come to grips with my blown out bad proportions, because part of the issue, besides the painting itself, is what Sharon said. I did not see the tomato long enough and over again. I didn't see it correctly. And when I look at Sharon's work, I can see exactly what she means. I mean, she really got the entire shape and personality.
mm-hmm.
So I sent you a kind of weird corrective drawing, trying to show better proportion that I will attempt again, not to mention better color. Awesome.
Yeah, great. I'll load that onto my iPad right now and see. And that's cool though, because that shows that you see it, kind of thing. And it looks like I got all right. So I got corrections. It looks like I got a couple of other emails as well. So from Sharon about cherries, as well as oh, okay, great. All right, so did my iPad freeze on you guys? Let me do it looks like it did. Oh, okay. Yeah, so let me just load this up really quickly. And also there's another woman who's part of this class. She kind of joined a little bit later. And it looks like she maybe sent me something, but no, doesn't look like. Never mind. So, all right, so we'll keep moving forward. Okay, bear with me here. I'm always aware, like when I do this, it's like it must feel like just paint drying kind of thing. This is where I like want to think.
We're used to paint drawing.
Yeah, true. kind of geek out about it. You know, and it feels like no matter how fast you go or how good it is, it's hard to like get it. It's just the nature of the beast. All right, let me hide these really quick. Kudos though for that. And so Susie, I think what we'll do is we'll start with your stripes and then go into the other the tomato kind of thing. And let me just load this real quick, and then we'll hide it, and we'll never speak of it again. So there we go. Okay, so we'll start with the good news.
Yay!
Yeah. Nice. So how was this one for you?
I really like the exercise. Of course, you can see that the paper thing didn't work out on the red stripe. And finally, I just eliminated the paper thing and went freehand. Mm-hmm. But I got it. I mean, I understood what we were going for here. And it worked beautifully with the yellow. It worked so with the green. But the solid colors came out pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. Yeah, and I want to do the same thing we did with Sharon's, where let's just compare and see what the camera, and granted, you have, a little bit of a caveat here, like you have the colors are kind of like, whenever you're photographing something versus real life, and hell, I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen, but I find particularly with men, where I'm like, that's blue-green, and they're like, oh, I think that's, yeah, and they'll say something like, I don't know, forest green or something. I'm like, what? No, that, they don't see colors the way, they're gonna be, oh, and I'll be like, it needs to be a navy blue, and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's blue, and it's like some, I don't know, baby blue, which to me is a completely different color. So, wow, look at that change on your red. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah. Let's see what your blue did. So that's kind of ballpark.
Hang on, I have to answer the door.
Okay. It's probably some Christian organization. It's probably, what are they, Mormons? Probably Mormons. Do you think they're going to convert her? I feel almost sorry if it's Mormons. Diane's like, no, hell no. I feel almost sorry if it's Mormons. I feel sorry for them because she's going to hurt them.
That's what I was going to say. I feel sorry for them.
Where's those guys, the watchtower?
Jesus, you think it was
the ones that it's that watchtower thing.
Yeah. Susie, I was
come around my neighborhood a lot.
It was not a.
No, I was going to feel sorry for
It was not a watchtower. It was a neighbor.
Is this about your birthday again?
It was a neighbor with fresh lettuce for my birthday.
Oh, it's your birthday.
It was. It was.
It's your birthday. Yeah. We were afraid that you'd be like shredding some poor Mormon guy, just, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a cake, but I got lettuce.
Yeah. Tell them they can come back with cake, and that would be okay.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I did these little swatches, but you can see so the top swatch of each color is from the right and the bottom is from the left. And it's surprising how much it changes, even though I would say at first glance, looking at it, I thought, oh, you know, it's a little bit, not that much, you know. One thing that I did was when I was in college, I took a color theory class, and we didn't use paints at all. We were given these, or we bought these, like, I don't know, they were called chart packs, I think, and they were just these like pieces of, it was like a stack of all the colors of the rainbow, and then some, like about 2-inch stack of pieces of paper of all these different colors. And the whole thing, the class was mostly just taking one color and putting it against the background of another. And we did all different kinds of exercises and stuff, but it was maddening to me because I couldn't, you know, there a lot of times I spent, like, you know, I'd be up at 2 a.m. looking for certain colors that I knew I could mix with paint, but that, you know, and I knew that they were probably in the chart pack or close to it, but I couldn't find quite the right one that was a little, it was that whole, it's a little too blue, it's a little too this, it's a little, you know, but it was one of the best classes I ever took in my life, actually. The instructor's name was Cy Silverman, and he studied under Joseph Albers, who was like kind of a big color theory person. Yeah, like could totally geek out about that. But yeah, your gradients look good. And, you know, I would say maybe this week we'll challenge you guys. Let's do an experiment with greens. Like, let's just, shoot, I'm gonna write that down. But let's take on the greens and see what we can get out of doing greens. Green gradients. And playing around with the blue-green versus yellow-green. Okay. Any other thoughts on that one? No. But nice job. And I'm glad you know, if the paper thing didn't work, I'm glad you didn't bother with staying with something that didn't work, kind of thing. If you haven't done this one and you're going to do it, try to, if you possibly can get a hold of some tape that is thinner, or maybe just skip doing the tape and just do a thinner strip, then, and I'm going to make a note to myself too to use thin tape. I think that's also an interesting kind of a thing to try, if you can. So no worries if you can't. So let's see. Oh, I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, shoot, my iPad froze up again. So here we go again. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah? You guys cool? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so thanks for, there we go. Here it goes. And back again, so. All right, Susie, shall I share the email you sent me, or do you want to just, because it was really funny. But I don't
I love her. This is such a disaster.
Okay. If I wasn't
shadows.
If I wasn't, yeah, yesterday.
Shadows are.
Yeah. Oh, and for what it's worth, Susie, I feel your pain because, like, I would have responded, but I was trying to do this logo project. I spent 10 hours doing something called vectors, which is like this, like, weird technical bullshit. And I spent 10 hours doing it on a drawing that I thought the client was cool with and liked and wanted because he said he liked it. And then last night he says, oh, I want something completely different. I was like, dude, I spent 10 hours doing vectors for you.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, you know. Yeah, so so please know that I feel you on this, and that, you know, maybe for different reasons, but we've all been there on this one. So Susie's email, I think I'll start with that because that was just so friggin'.
Well, all I can say is I don't have that many years left to waste that much time on this tomato.
usually wasting our time on eggplants rather than tomatoes. um, or bananas.
Well, I can't even find tape, so so there.
So yeah, Karen, just freehand it then. So Susie writes, I had to use natural light tomato because it's all my enemy printer would print. I tried to use your other photo shadow. The tomato defeated me. I will try again when at Diane's on Monday. I need to heal from the wounds inflicted by this barbaric fruit. Just, Susie, I love your writing. I'm trying to think of how I could make that into a testimonial for my teaching. I'm like, you can't. But I'm like, but I love it. It's brilliant. It's like, even if it scares everyone away, I'm like, I really like it. So there's that. So do you want to add anything to that, Susie? That
No.
okay. Let's see. Oh, good.
I stick
Tomato
with my
from
original
hell.
thought.
Oh gosh.
Are you supposed to say you love all my assignments? Guess not. All right. So I will start with the corrected one. All right. So and that's fine. Let's see. Kind of scooch this one. Oh, that's your, okay. Actually, for what it's worth, Susie, for all of your
Well,
comments.
it's kind of cute.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad, honestly. I'm like.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
cute.
please.
Yeah, and I
did
never,
like the shadows, though.
I never lie about
It's got
art.
its appeal.
I lie to myself about the character of the men I date, but I'd never lie about art. So, so there. Yeah. Oh, here's a thought too, because Susie, you have an iPad, right?
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. So I would suggest, instead of dealing with your demon printer, maybe just put the picture up on, that's what I do, because I ran into the same thing. It's a pain in the ass trying to print things out, and then you have all this stuff, and then you're, I don't know about you, but like printer ink just gets, like they extort you for printer ink. Like you buy the printer for $50, $100, and then you spend $1 million on ink. So I would suggest just pull up the picture on your iPad, and that way you don't have to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm making a note too, because I have a great cartoon that the Oatmeal did about a printer ink, and how they extort us. So there you go. All right. So there's the bodacious tomato. And then you were kind of harshing out about your proportions on that. So we'll kind of, let me transform this over. Something's not lost in translation. Sorry. Thinking of like technology and stuff.
There's a curse on this tomato.
Great. I'm going to be eating this tomato for breakfast or dinner in the near future. I think. So I'm going to be eating the tomato. Although Diana suggested that I do another little promo video, kind of like what I did for the intro for you guys. Okay, so there's your painting. And then this is the correction. I don't know why, like I'm putting it on top. There we go. Okay. Ooh, I know. Well, all right, bear with me. Here we go. All right, so there's the corrections that you feel are wrong with the proportions of your tomatoes. I would suggest, like, don't even worry about it, because like, who's really gonna know on this one? And I want to just arrange them so they're next to each other so we can kind of see it a little bit better.
Sweetie, can I do that?
And then,
Wait a minute, tell me something important then. I'm in a class, but I'm okay. What's up?
everybody's calling her for her birthday. Mm-hmm. Yep. She's an adult though.
Look, I think it looks like it.
Yeah.
That's pretty close.
Yeah,
That's pretty
what I'm
close,
saying.
Susie.
Yeah. I
It
know.
looks like it.
And yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, yeah, it's could be a little rounder. Like, I think her corrections are right on. They're pretty much, if I was going to talk about it. Ooh, let's all talk about her while she's off. It's her birthday. No. Oh, shit. We got to be nice to her on her
I'll call
birthday.
you back.
I don't think it's as bad as she thinks it is. It's not
I
as bad as she thinks it is.
Bye.
And she's got those little white things hanging out. You know.
Okay,
yeah,
No, we like it, Susie. It's not
Okay.
as bad as you think it is.
yeah. Yeah, I
It's-
totally agree with Karen.
it looks like a sundae. It looks like a tomato sundae. Oh,
Yeah, but that's the fault of the tomato, not the painter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
You've got all the,
What do you
highlights there. You've got the white things coming out.
and your reds look really good. You know,
do you think the proportion changes would help?
you know, I think if you're looking to make it completely accurate to the original model, yeah. And if this was a human model, like, that would be really important, because that would be the difference
Better.
between 50 pounds and not, or something like that. But because of this is a tomato, like, I think you can totally get away with this and not worry about it. Like, you know, the good news is I feel like these changes that you did here, yeah, that's probably pretty much what I would have done too. Like, so I feel like you've seen it, you see it, so you know what to do with it. The other thing that I really like is look at her shadows. Like, her shadows are really cool. What's happening there? Yeah, and the shadows are kind of like spotlighting it.
I like the shadows too. I thought they were the best part of the.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, and you've got the thing too that you're having in here is you've got the light within the shadows. Like, let's see, let me get on. There we go. You've got the light within the shadows happening. And that little gradient, that sort of short gradient that happens, that's good. I mean, there's more good here than bad, you know, on this one. The main actually thing that I feel would help it is you went really heavy on the pro white, and that's where it's feeling like the pro white are just, it's almost like it has, it's, to me it almost looks like a ladybug, you know, with, or the ladybugs have black dots. Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, like a magic mushroom with white dots on it. There we go. Which I've never taken, by the way, much to my chagrin. But at any rate, it's, yeah, so.
They're great.
Damn it. I'm like the last person, all my friends. I'm not kidding.
Actually, the magic, the blue mushrooms are better.
Really?
Blue mushrooms are the best.
Well,
What?
somebody said that they even thought that there's a possibility that with the mushrooms that have been popping out from my manure pile, you know, Hawthorne's manure pile, might be magic. So I don't know, because they are bluish. But oh my God, we'll have to talk about that.
Aha.
Yeah. I'm like,
Are you guys
Some of
talking
it.
about psychedelic mushrooms?
yeah. Well, we should probably talk about that on Friday. It would be a good Friday topic. But I do want to know more. I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Totally curious. Okay, so on that rather random note, I'll refocus. So let's blend. Oh, and I'm making a mental note. Never share your Zoom sessions outside of the group. So
For real.
yeah. So really trying here. The other thing I like though is you got a nice, like the redness of the tomato. It's a little bit, you could use a little bit more variations and put a little more yellow in it. So okay, what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna pull a little bit of yellow from the actually from this, and I'm gonna go really faint on it. And then what I'm gonna do first is add a little bit more variation into the tomato, and then really kind of focus more on the highlights of that. And here's another thing that Susie is doing well. Like it's, and I'm not just saying this because it's your birthday. I don't want you to think that. But like here, see how she's got that, see how you got that warm red? Like that's really good. And then how it transitions into like the cooler reds, you know? So that's what kind of reds were you using for this?
I used every red I owned, and I ended up at the very final piece of that orange, straight orange. That is not red, that's orange.
Gotcha. You know, I kind of ran into that with carrots for
I
natural.
put it on top of the red. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I ran
And
into
the only reason that stupid white paint ended up that way was because I had the paint, the white stuff on really what I thought was more controlled, and it disappeared. It just sort of sunk into the painting and left pink splotches. I don't know why, but that's why I ended up with too much white.
was it so you were using the red, the pro white on it, I'm thinking?
No, I used the white stuff that we got from doing the ink work. It's not pro white, but it's in a little jar. It's kind of like that, but not quite.
Yeah, but it's similar enough. Yeah. Okay. My guess is just looking at how you.
Yeah, it's hard to use.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah. My guess is looking at it, it looks like you used a lot of water in, like you mixed it pretty thick, right? But it looks like there's a fair amount of water in the paint in this, you know, and I can tell just kind of from the texture of it. So you might want to do what I would call more of a of a dry brush technique. And so another note for me that I can show you guys, because, and I kind of did this on my tomato too, where I would dip my paintbrush in the white, and then I would, and you probably didn't see this because it was off camera, but I would kind of damp it down, sometimes on the paper towel, sometimes on a piece of paper, sometimes on my apron, so that it just had a little bit on there. And I think that would probably help you a little bit. I do think that you could blend a little bit more on this side. Let me go back into this. Oops, that's totally wrong. All right, let me try that again. So I'm working down here actually. And I'm just trying to blend it a little bit. and soften that edge. I might even have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. Like now I'm like erasing it, which actually I would do the equivalent of this. Like I would take a brush and just a damp brush and do, I think I talked last time about lift technique and using that a little bit. So essentially that is kind of erasing it to help it like just soften up that edge a little bit. Frankly, I'm not in love. Part of it is the texture of the paper that you used, which is, I think the paper you used looks really great. But when I'm trying to make,
Awful.
Really, you hate that paper too? Does everybody hate their paper today?
It was awful. I hate it. Yeah, I hated it. Too much texture.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny because for digital illustration, because it's so smooth, you know, the nature of the digital, it makes it sort of, the edits don't blend in as much as I would like them to. And then I'm just going to go a little bit. But I like how dramatic you are about it, Susie. I like how you're like, I think that's important to be very dramatic. I mean, I'm teasing you a little bit, but it's kind of good because it's like how we are about art, you know? I think sometimes the staff at Nash's, we're probably...
See, Melissa, no one's ever accused me of being dramatic.
Really? Not even Diane?
Not.
Psych.
Yeah, I'm a drama queen.
But it makes for life to be so much more entertaining, you know? Ooh.
It does. It does.
Well, and it also, to me, is about like, I mean, I don't like to be, how do I say this? I don't like to be like, to me, there's positive drama or feeling your feelings really intensely and like being in that versus the, you know, somebody who's just starting stupid shit all the time. Like, I don't think of you as somebody who does that, you know. Hopefully I don't do that either. Now I'm looking at the sort of...
I'm a very optimistic girl.
Yeah, and that's a good way to be, you know. So now I'm looking at the scar, or the kind of this little scar or puka hole or whatever you want to call it. And this could be a little bit, it feels like it's initially when even though I painted this tomato, when I first looked at it, I was like, it feels a little bit like, I don't know, it felt like almost like it wanted to be a shadow or something. And I think part of what's going on, but it's not that far off, right? So, but it's a little bit. So I make it a little bit smaller. Let me pull this color out. And the thing is that the thing is a certain like width, but you're looking at it on an angle, so it's going to be a little bit less. And the other cool thing is you're going to have a little bit of extra color kind of at that juncture between the square, or where the scar kind of meets the flesh of the fruit. Definitely going to make more coffee after that. Some days you just need 2 cups of coffee.
The thing I had a real problem with on this is it looked like it had on the inside part, it had a little dip into the tomato. Like this was a little, almost a hole. Yeah. And I did not know how to do that.
Okay. Actually, I remember you did your cherry very well with getting that, like, you know, how the stem went into the cherry. It's pretty much the same thing, but a little bit more shallow.
Uh-huh.
So I think of it as like kind of a whirlpool effect. And this color that you got here, like I'm just pulling from it.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like this was a really pretty good color. So knowing that it's going to be whirlpooly around that. I'm just kind of going around it a little bit and up into it a little bit. There.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And mine's a little bit big, but you know,
Yay.
you let it be
Yay.
big and it'd be totally fine. Okay. Now for the highlights. And the good news is that you have some things that are kind of not quite working, but kind of working, which is good because that's something you can build on. And so when I look up here at this sort of, I don't know what to call it. Okay, I think of it as the penis part of the tomato or whatever.
No, it's the cherry on top.
It's the cherry on top. Okay. Okay. So when we're looking at the cherry on top, how you did sort of this this area where it's sort of blended and sort of not, that's actually kind of, especially living a little bit more like right in there, that's good. So let's just kind of build on that and blend it a little bit. And I think you're going to see, hopefully, I always feel like whenever I do these things, I'm like going out a little bit on a limb because you never really know until you try it, like how it's going to work, you know? And I'm just kind of blending it a little bit, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go a little bit off-road. I'm not going to really worry too much about what the photograph is saying or not saying. You also did a good job of getting that sort of yellow, orange to red transition on the cherry penis part. Oh, sorry, I'll behave. It's your birthday. I have to be good. Okay. So it's just teasing. Can't help it. I'm going to erase a little bit of what I did so it's blended because I really like what you have there. And just a little check in on you guys. So blend, 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 blend. Okay. And let me erase that. Whoa. Oops. Maybe I shouldn't have erased that. When I'm having a moment, it's like, ah, shoot. Okay. I regret that I have that blue pencil on this dot, but I'm just going to deal with it. I'm going to figure it out. So all I did just now is I'm just pulling the red and I'm covering up the blue pencil that I am not happy that I did that. This is your brain on vectors. That's all I have to say. I mean, yeah. Let's just say I'm not going to teach a vector class like ever, okay? That's just not going to happen. And don't get me wrong, I like these.
I say don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I like these clients, but and you just live and learn. All right, so I'm going to cover all I'm doing, and I'm making it a little smaller too. And you know, Susie, I would say too, given how you feel about this painting, you might want to just start a new one. I don't think it's all bad. I think you can. You can sort of.
Thanks for the. Thank you. Bye, honey. Okay.
It's your birthday. Everybody's calling you. Meanwhile, I'm slaving on your
I
tomato.
know, I like it.
It's good. Yeah. No, I get it.
Somebody should slave on it. Yeah.
Oh no, it just went a little cray. I'll give it a second. For a second it looks good. Now it's like breathing. I don't usually use the watercolor brush for this. I use it actually for backgrounds and I like it a lot actually, but for this kind of stuff I usually don't, but it kind of, it's like working, it's what I would call working-ish, you know. Okay, really looking to make like a soft, it's actually kind of cool how it's animating, but really looking to make kind of a soft edge, soft watery edge. But then if you want to get a little bit like, you know, harder, sharper, darker, clearer, I'm going to use this other brush. I think it's also a watercolor brush, but it's not a wash brush the way, but I can do more of what I would call a dry brush technique. So it's not going to flow as much. So very little of it is going to be, so you see how there's like just, actually it's really just kind of like yeah. Yeah, and when you compare it to the photograph, even
I
though,
love it.
yeah, I'm actually happy because I've had a few moments of like, oh shit, can we get away with this?
Yeah.
But yeah, and even though the shape is compared to the photograph is wrong, for the painting, I'm getting away, it's working for it. Yeah. And you could, like, if you wanted to just go back into this, what I would do is I would take a damp brush, I would lift up as much as I could of this white, which would probably kind of already give you that background a little bit. And I'll do that again here. So like,
I bet it would.
yeah, because like if you would probably get something kind of like this. Like I'll just kind of do them all at the same time. And what's nice is that the this scar that you did on the left-hand side, that feels really pretty good. You know, you might want to paint up against it a little bit more, find some like highlights or you know, like I noticed just like over here, there's kind of more of an orangey type thing. It looks good. And then so just fading that out a little.
It's Sharon's burnt sienna.
Yes. You know, Sharon, I should warn you, Susie's a very determined person. So if you open your door and she's out there, you know, don't think you're completely safe being in Wisconsin. She's like, you've been warned, man. I love teasing you guys. Let's see. Now I'm using the watercolor round brush and just kind of lightly, and again, think dry brush, and I'll be definitely doing this. In fact, actually this week, Karen and I were having happy hour, which was quite lovely. And actually for Karen, for you and me, we were really appropriate at our last happy hour. Oh, that's surprising. But aside from that, we're talking about reflections and things like that. And that I think that's going to be our next thing. Take a little break from shadows and get into reflections. Which can be pretty,
yeah, mirrors.
Yeah. Oh, mirrors. We're doing. Well, I want to us do this first. That will build for mirrors.
Water?
No, like glass, like reflect. Yeah, water killed us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, water was a thing. Although I feel like we all got better at water. Actually, water wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like you guys did some really good.
I sure learned some stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you all did really good water paintings. And then it turned out to not be anywhere near like, here's this thing that I'd been kind of avoiding painting, and then you guys were like, yeah, we want to learn that. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. But it wasn't that bad, actually. Yeah, things that I don't tell people. Yeah, it's funny. Oh, there we go. See, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah, I mean,
That's good.
yeah. And you can see that, like, again, here,
I can go play with that.
Yeah, and you don't feel precious about it, too. And the drawing, yeah, you saw that the drawing was a little bit off, but, you know, and if it was a portrait or something, then they'd be mad but for this, it's like, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, is it round?
It's a tomato.
Is it juicy? It's
Yeah.
a juicy tomato. It's like a happy, juicy thing.
Yeah.
Let me hide the there you go. So that's what happened, you know. Oh, and
Where
that's,
you guys find those? At the farm stands or?
yeah, actually right down the street from us.
I'm very limited on where I get. Yeah.
Yeah, Chai's farm stand has some great like leafy greens. Like I go to Nash's for the grains and other things, and a bug patty and Nash as well. But for grains and mustard seed and flour is really wonderful. But I go to Chai's these days for more produce. Nash is kind of moving out of produce anyway. Although Nash's does sometimes
Where's
have some
Chai's?
beautiful. On Town Road near the intersection of Town and Olympic. And they regularly have they have for 50 cents, they have these like mutant tomatoes.
Oh, that's real close to me.
Yeah, so that's really
Yeah.
just down the street from you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out
Yeah,
that
well, just being down the street, I can't get there. I'm lucky if I can get there anytime.
yeah, but you could have one of your
I'm
helpers
so stuck.
pick it up or something from
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah, I have to do something. Yeah, I have somebody new. It sounds good. Okay, I'll be quiet. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Melissa, I
Yeah,
have a request.
yeah.
I have a request. My request is, could at some point in a lesson in the future, you show us how you load up a brush, how you deal with your paints as you're getting ready to load up your brush, and do a little lesson on brush work, because this is one of those places where I watch you do it, and I long to understand how exactly what the procedure is.
Yeah, you got it, birthday girl. I'm gonna do it this week. So yeah, I've done some in the past, but it sounds like there's still questions around that. And so you want to know like basically how to do a wash, how to do what I would call kind of, I don't know what to even call it, but like a medium, like not too wet, not too dry thing, or how to add layers and how to do dry brush. Like in a sense, I look at that, yeah, I could totally geek out on that, you know. Yeah, I'd be happy to do, because
Cool.
I think this
Well,
is something I
what
have
you
to
do is, what I see when you are putting a lesson up is your hand goes off the screen and you say, load up your brush. And I'm not sure exactly what that technique really is. I know about loading up on a lot of things, but not so much on my brush.
Precious.
No, and apparently you could teach me a few things about loading up on some psychedelics, but yeah, I'd be happy to. And yeah, and I'll make sure. And a question I have for you guys is, when I do the time-lapse videos, like, are they too long or too short? Because sometimes I feel like I'm going so fast, or that I've sped it up, but I also don't want it to be like ridiculously long for you guys. And so I just kind of want to get a temperature check on that a little bit.
It's okay with me. It works for me. So I'm good.
I think the length of time is good because you can get through them fairly quickly, but if you have a question or want to see something again, you can just go back and stop and watch it again a couple times.
Okay.
So like if you made them substantially longer, it would be hard to get through all of the videos and then get to the lessons. So I think they're a good length.
Okay, good.
And I love the
Me
time
too.
lapse.
5 to 12 minutes. Yeah. Anywhere in there. Yep.
Yeah, good. Because sometimes
I like them. I like them. Yeah.
cool. Because I know when I'm doing the voiceover, I feel
Me
like it's
too.
so funny. I'm like, oh, we're done. You know? So I'm like, but I kind of feel the same way that like what Sharon and you guys said too. Like, I know for me, like sometimes when I watch a YouTube video and it is something I really want to see and I like the presenter, but sometimes I'm like, oh God, you know, like hurry up already, dude, you know, or lady. Usually I'm watching cranky old men doing demonstrations about tools. That's my YouTube. They don't know it, but that's who I'm fangirling. But getting back to Susie's tomato, I feel like here, let me shoot, it froze up on me again, and then I want to kind of try and get this going. I think you have so much more here that is so much better. Like be a little gentler to yourself. That's your goal now that you're 75, is to be kind to yourself, you know. You know, these are relatively I can't help it. It's a teacher of me, you know. These are relatively small, you know, they're significant, but they're not huge edits. It's not like I painted over the whole dang thing, you know. That's your painting. You're seeing things really more and more accurately. It's not easy to get these goofy ellipses, you know, and see the proportions, and the fact that even your version A is like pretty accurate, you know, and that's, you know, so feel good about that. And your colors are good too, you know, so it's all really, you know, and so that's the main thing, is soften your highlights on that. It's interesting, I did a little bit almost kind of like what Sharon had.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Is anybody
Yeah.
Woohoo.
I think it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to, add anything or disagree with my little mini life lesson lecture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your very favorite paint for putting in the highlights? I know we all have Pro White, and I think I use gouache sometimes. Lately, it's been a big failure. It's been too stark, you know, it doesn't blend. So what do you reach for when you're going to put highlights in?
I would say Pro White, but I mix it with other paints. So it plays really nicely. So I'll mix it on my palette. And in fact, actually, let me take it off this screen share and let me grab my palette. I don't know if you guys will see it too much, but you'll see like how that my Pro White is actually not white.
Where is it?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's like Sharon and I are palette sisters this way. Like, so there's my Pro White. But a lot of times.
Oh, can I share something?
Yeah.
Can I share something before I forget?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
So these deviled egg plates.
Yes.
So this is a deviled egg plate that I got for $11. And I love this. Love it, love it, love it in comparison to this. It's easy to clean. I love it. So just that's an advertisement for deviled egg plates.
Absolutely. No, wait, is that
It is ceramic. That's why I love it.
Oh, okay. Because I've used I love deviled eggs, and I get the sometimes from the little grocery store near us or near me that at Sunny Farms for those who live, but they have deviled eggs, but in the little plastic trays, and I like those too, but they're not easy to clean because they're plastic. So the ceramic sounds great.
Yeah, I get those.
Yeah, did you get it from? Well, I'm sure we can look it up on Amazon, but did you get it from Amazon or something?
Yeah.
You know.
No, in fact, the store that I work at has this line. It's cordon bleu,
Oh.
BLEU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like this.
You know, it's made in China. Whoops.
Maybe Bed Bath and Beyond.
And normally their stuff is a bit more expensive. So I was expecting to turn this plate over and see like $25, and it was 11. And I went, oh, well, I can do $11 for something I'm going to use.
Yeah.
So,
hell yeah. Thank you.
Cordon bleu. You can probably find it online.
Yeah. In fact, I'll look up and see if I can find a link or something. No, I love that tip because again, the ceramics work so much better than the plastic for
Wow.
even if it's a plastic paint tray, like they never get clean. I find. I mean, I try not to make too big a deal of it, but once you get spoiled by the ceramics, it's sort of ceramic ink cleaner.
So Liz.
Yeah.
And who Susie, I guess, was asking something. I use zinc white gouache and buff titanium.
Mm-hmm.
I like that buff thing.
Yeah. And both of those are good. Like, I think of the zinc, I'm not sure if I have it right, but I think of the zinc as usually being a little bit more transparent than the titanium. But like you could use the zinc white or whichever one is more transparent. You could use that to, like, on the tomato sort of highlights that you want it to be more softer, and then do the like really bright part on the tomato highlights. Do you want me to show you that a little bit, what I mean? Because I showed it on Susie's pretty well, but I'll kind of highlight it because it's her birthday. So. Actually, I used to really, I used to really love it when I had, when I was in the classroom, when my students had birthdays, because they would often bring me cupcakes. Did you bring me cupcakes? No. Okay. So if I go here, but no, no, but I liked it in general. But so if you look here, here's kind of like this hot spot, right? And that's, in fact, I'll do another sketch later on that. So this is this hot spot, but really what's happening from here on out, from that hot spot, going out to the tomato, more or less, is really just a gradient. It's a short gradient. That's all it is, really. And it's kind of funny because in the photograph, it's a little bit harder to see in some ways. And in some ways, and this is something where I don't really fault you on this one, Susie, because the photograph, the hot spots, because of the nature of the camera and also printing it out as well, you kind of lost some resolution. The hot spot is like this huge thing, and then it has just a little gradient. And I would suggest, when I did my tomato, I kind of felt like, I could have made my highlights a little bit more poppy or whatever, or more bigger or more brighter. But I was kind of hesitant to, because I felt like if I did that I would kind of lose the feel, I would kind of have a variation of what happened with Susie's highlights on that. So yeah. So like,
exactly.
Yeah. So like for Karen, you could do your titanium white or your pro white or whatever, and then use maybe a different white. Or if you have some of you have those ink sets, you have that have a white ink in them. That I'll bet you'd be really good for doing like this sort of soft gradient area as well, you know. Diane's really good at mixing and matching like different mediums and kind of pulling from that. You could also pull for the hot spot, if you wanted to use like white, if you have white pastel or something like that, you could do that, you know. So yeah, great thought.
Oh, good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And that's so
Yeah.
controllable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you can also do
Do
that.
you add color to any of this?
Yeah. When I do the pro white, like if I was to do this part, the gradient part with the pro white, depending on how much it was sort of mixing in with what was already on the paper, I would be mixing it on the palette. And, you know, on my palette, I know for sure, like it's kind of hard to see. I'll just stop share on that. But it's kind of hard to see, but I believe, I'm pretty sure, see here where it's red? This is actually a mixture of pro white and red that I was using for that little gradient thing. It wasn't all just, yeah. So that's, yeah. Yeah, so that's how I was doing it, but yeah. And in fact, I can also see, it's again, super hard to see, but this is like a blob of pro white right here. And right next to it, there's like this, it's probably because I used it all, but there's a little bit of red mixed in with a pro white, you know, super hard to see, but yeah. But that's kind of a thing. Yeah. It makes me glad I'm using the curtains because now the background doesn't do weird shit when I do. Seems like I can do stuff like that a little bit better with you guys. So
Yeah, the curtains are great. I love it.
yeah, and they still hide all the now the laundry is not just clean but dirty. So I'm just this friggin' logo project. I blame the vectors for not doing the laundry. But yeah. Should we sing?
Yeah.
Should we sing "Happy Birthday" to Susie or something like that, or you know, or wish?
Oh, I think we should.
Oh yes. Okay, awesome. Let's do it. Yes, I'm so
1,
excited.
2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Why am I the only one singing?
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Susie. Happy birthday to you.
To you. Yay! And your tomato painting is
Thank you.
much
Thank
better
you.
than you think it is. Many more.
You just need to put a birthday candle on it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I'll
Good
put-
idea.
Right in its
go.
crevice.
There you are.
Oh,
Okay.
This is why we love
bye,
Diana.
guys.
Right in the crevice. All right, you guys. Have a great day and enjoy the birthday. Celebrate Susie's birthday as well. All right, you guys. Take care.
Okay. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye now.